Water. It's one of Earth's most valuable resources. And I'm John the Eddy, here to tell you about how I collect rainwater instead of using city water, which means your city water could cost less for you. Whether you're watering a garden, watering flowers, or even giving water to your pets and animals, water is valuable, and it usually costs money. Sometimes you can let it rain, and rain will take care of your garden for you. It'll wet the ground, and then your plants can use that water. But it doesn't always rain. The ground gets dry, the plants start to wilt, and you could lose all of your hard work. So to avoid that, I bought a barrel. I cut the top of it off and put a rock in it so it wouldn't blow away in the wind. Then I bought some tarps, just 5x7s, small tarps, about $2 or $3 a piece. These tarps are pretty handy for collecting rainwater. This setup I got's not the best here, but it's pretty simple, requires no tools, and it'll give you a modest amount of rainwater. Now to build it, all you need is a few logs, not too many, about 8 should do. Then you get yourself a tarp and a brick or a rock. Either way will work. Just something to put in the center so it'll pull all the water to that heavy object. Now you may notice that these are not the best water traps, and they fail quite easily depending on the amount of water they collect. Since they're suspended above the ground by poorly stabilized objects, it is quite easy for the water to become too heavy and pull the logs off atop one another and pour out all the water onto the ground. I'll be fixing this going on to version 1.1 and version 1.2. The first rainfall wasn't much. It was a light rain, gave us about 1 bucket worth of water, about 5 gallons, just enough to cover the rock in my barrel. The second rainfall, however, was quite a bit more, about 1.5 buckets. As you can see there, I just used a bucket and this little pint cup that I found. Just something smaller to help scoop up the water. As I said before, this is not the most efficient manner of collecting rainwater. It has quite a few problems, but it will work in a pinch. So I'm going to tear this down and get working on version 1.1 and version 1.2. You can also leave your wheelbarrow outside and it can collect water for you too. It's pretty handy as it's easy to pour the water into a bucket. Now with all that water, we're up to about 1/3 of a barrel full. That's about 20 gallons. Not great, not horrible. But going on to version 1.2 first. I really should have just changed that in editing, but it is what it is now. You're going to spread out your tarp, get a few bricks or stones to measure out where you want the tarp to be. You're going to put those stones underneath the corners of where the tarp is going to go as your markers for where to dig. You're gonna pull up the tarp and grab a shovel. You're gonna go one shovel's width in from the stones, both along the length and the width of the area you're digging. When you dig up the dirt and grass, you're going to lay it along the edges of what is going to be your tarp. This will help build up the wall of what is essentially a miniature pool that you are building at this point. Then once you get most of the digging done, you're going to grab a rake and you're going to try and smooth out the bottom as much as you can while leaving one area that is lower than the rest to make collecting water easier. Then you're going to watch me fight with the wind to get this tarp down. It got a field there and it does not like to let me play with tarps. It likes to try and take them away from me. So I'm going to put these bricks down on top of the tarp to make sure it don't go anywhere. But it's not quite enough. I need a few more. Now that we got version 1.2 done, we're going to go on to version 1.1. This version also does not require the use of tools. However, we are going to be using logs again. Now you're just going to set up your logs in the shape of a square about the size of the tarp. You're going to take the tarp and you're going to set it inside of those logs. Take a few more logs to pin down that tarp so the wind, once again, does not take it away from you. And once you got that set up, it should once again look like a little miniature pool that you made out of a tarp. And should collect water just fine. Once I got those tarps built, I waited for it to rain and I started collecting water again. And it wasn't long. Before I knew it, I had a full barrel of water. I know I could go through that barrel pretty quickly, so I went and I bought another one. Now to saw off the top of this is pretty easy. You just take a carpenter's saw and just keep cutting along the edge in one spot and you'll break through. Then you just put the saw through that hole and you keep sawing along the edge until you go all the way around. Now this barrel, it smelled like paint thinner, so I started washing it out. And wouldn't you know, all the water I dumped out ended up killing the grass. So I'm glad I washed it out because I don't know what they had in it, but it was not plant friendly. Now as you can see, it's important where you put your water traps. One water trap is nice and clean, all the sediment has fallen to the bottom, while the other one is disgusting. It has a bunch of pollen sacs in it. These pollen sacs come from the tree that is beside it. So now I got one water trap that is essentially full of tea, and another one with nice clean water. Now you're going to see as I go through the rest of this video that I actually have a third tarp that I didn't even intend to collect water. It's just to cover some ground, but it turns into a wonderful water trap as well, and it gives me about 4 buckets of water. And both of these also give me about 4 buckets of water. And this is from one rainstorm. So if you do the math, you got a 5-gallon bucket, 4 buckets per tarp, and 3 tarps for one storm. That's about 60 gallons of water. And since I have 55-gallon barrels, that is 1 barrel worth of water I can collect from a single storm. And I think that's amazing because as I'm going into summer, the heat's picking up, the need for water is increasing, and I think I'm going to be going through quite a bit of water. I would estimate I've used up at least 80 gallons of water so far just through the spring. And considering my garden's not that big, I think this really pays off in the long run. So if you guys like what you see in here today, please leave a like, comment, even subscribe. That's amazing. Or even more amazing would be if you shared this video with someone else. That would just mean the world to me. So thank you guys. You're awesome for sticking around to the end. I hope to see you again next time.